Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into one of the absolute most fascinating, complex, and honestly paradoxical figures in human history, Toussaint Louverture. We are going to explore his literal enslaved youth to legendary general journey. We're talking about the man who led the only successful slave revolution in history. It is a wild story of profound revolution, sheer military genius, and, as you'll see, the incredibly heavy, sometimes dark, price of power. Okay, let's dive right into this. Picture this. It's August 29th, 1793, and a massive proclamation is circulating through the French colony of Saint-Domingue. It reads, "I want liberty and equality to reign in Saint-Domingue. I am working to make that happen. Unite yourselves to us, brothers, and fight with us for the same cause." That incredible clarion call, penned by Toussaint Louverture himself. Right off the bat, it sets up his ultimate ideal, right? Universal liberty. But as we're going to see, the path to actually getting that liberty was anything but straightforward. Section 1, the spark of revolution. So before the uprising even kicked off, the French colony of Saint-Domingue, which we know today as Haiti, was basically a powder keg just waiting for a match. The population disparity was absolutely staggering. By 1789, this place was the world's largest producer of sugar and coffee. But that immense wealth, it was built entirely on the backs of 500,000 enslaved people, forced into brutal labor and stripped of literally all their rights. Compare that massive number to just roughly 30,000 French colonists who actually held all the power, and another 30,000 free people of color who faced severe legal discrimination. The imbalance is just massive, creating a deeply, deeply unjust and unstable society. And the match that finally ignited this powder keg was actually struck all the way across the Atlantic. Starting in 1789, the French Revolution exploded, and those infectious ideals of liberty and equality spread like wildfire. By May of 1791, France decided to grant voting rights to some free people of color. Well, that completely outraged the white planters who wanted to keep their strict hierarchy intact, and that's when the tension just snapped. In August 1791, following a secret voodoo ceremony at Bois Caiman, the enslaved population launched a massive, brutal uprising, quickly taking control of the northern part of the colony. The Haitian Revolution had officially begun. Section 2, From Slave to General. Now, what's really interesting here is that Louverture's personal journey totally defies expectations. Born in the early 1740s as Toussaint Breda, he was the son of an enslaved man, likely a West African aristocrat. But fast forward to 1776, and he is formally emancipated by his white manager. When that colossal 1791 uprising happened, he didn't even lead the charge right away. He actually joined later as an advisor and a healer, known as a general doctor. But from there, his rise was just meteoric. By 1793, he allies with the Spanish, becomes a general, and adopts the name Louverture, which means the opening. Then, just a year later in 1794, in this stunning pivot, he defects to the French Republic after they formally abolished slavery. The paradoxes of his early life are absolutely wild when you really think about them. The man who would become the ultimate liberator of enslaved people was highly educated in history, geography, and math. He'd been a free man for over a decade before the revolution even started. And get this, he actually briefly leased a coffee estate and owned 13 slaves himself. He even protected his former white manager's family during the initial bloody weeks of that 1791 uprising. It paints a picture of a man who deeply, deeply understood the colonial system from multiple, vastly conflicting vantage points. Section 3, the Black Spartacus. 12,000. That is the massive number of British soldiers who perished on the island after attempting to invade. While it's true many died from devastating yellow fever outbreaks, they were also systematically worn down by Louverture's brilliant guerrilla warfare, his rapid maneuverability, and his utterly ruthless scorched earth tactics. He completely outmaneuvered one of the greatest military powers on Earth. It's honestly no wonder that this kind of military prowess earned him the title of the Black Spartacus. The French governor Lavaux proudly bestowed that nickname on him in April 1796, drawing a direct, very intentional line to the famous Roman gladiator who led a massive slave revolt against the empire. And Toussaint, he gladly accepted it. It perfectly captured his rising prestige as he pushed out foreign invaders and masterfully defeated his internal factional rivals, like the mulatto general Regard. The scope of his achievements by 1800 was simply monumental. Remember, this is a guy with literally zero formal military training, yet he was the undisputed commander of Saint-Domingue. He wasn't just winning battles, he was operating as an independent head of state. He expertly played global superpowers against each other, successfully negotiating independent secret trade treaties with both Britain and the United States, all while somehow keeping up nominal loyalty to France. Just incredible. Section 4. The Price of Power. Now, his tenure as leader was defined by this massive central conflict, and it brilliantly illustrates the tension between his revolutionary ideals and his authoritarian actions. On one hand, you have his unwavering ideals. He championed universal liberty, permanently abolished colonial slavery, and pushed for genuine racial equality in a fiercely divided society. But then, you have his authoritarian actions. To revive a completely ruined export economy, he forcefully reinstituted strict plantation labor, named himself governor for life, and even ruthlessly executed his own rebellious nephew, Moise, just to maintain absolute order. When you dig into his infamous 1801 Constitution, you see this tension everywhere. While Article 3 boldly abolished slavery forever, Article 14 turned around and mandated that strict plantation economy with forced labor. He went on to ban all faiths except Roman Catholicism, strictly prohibited public political gatherings, and formally declared himself governor for life, complete with the explicit right to name his successor. He totally consolidated absolute power. Was this just a harsh necessity to save the colony from economic collapse, or was it a betrayal of the revolution's core promises? That is a debate historians are still fiercely arguing today. Section 5. Betrayal and Death. So Louverture's bold constitution definitely set the stage for a tragic downfall because it triggered a massive response from a new, incredibly dangerous threat across the Atlantic. Napoleon Bonaparte was absolutely furious at Louverture's autonomy and his unauthorized constitution. So, in early 1802, Napoleon dispatched a massive expeditionary force of 20,000 men under General Leclerc. The goal was crystal clear: restore direct French rule, strip Louverture of his power, and reinstate the highly profitable, brutal, pre-revolutionary plantation economy. Basically, Napoleon just could not stomach the idea of a former slave acting as the ruler of a sovereign empire. The final sequence of Louverture's military career is just tragic. It starts with fierce resistance. Louverture fought back hard, ordering towns burned and adopting a scorched earth strategy against the massive French armada. But, facing heavy desertions in his ranks, he was forced to negotiate a surrender in May 1802 in exchange for amnesty, and he retired to his estate, which leads us to the final betrayal. Perhaps blinded by a sense of his own infallibility, Louverture accepted an invitation to a meeting from French General Brunet in June 1802. It was a total trap. He was immediately arrested and thrown onto a ship to be deported to France. As he was forced onto that ship, forever leaving the island he liberated, Louverture delivered this chilling, prophetic warning to his captors. He said, "In overthrowing me, you have cut down in Saint-Domingue only the trunk of the tree of liberty. It will spring up again from the roots, for they are numerous and they are deep." And his tragic end came so far from the warm Caribbean sun. Separated from his family, completely stripped of his rank, and denied even basic medical assistance, Toussaint Louverture died of illness in a damp, freezing cell at the Fort de Joux, high up in the French mountains. It was April 7, 1803. He died a martyr, never getting to see the final, ultimate victory of the revolution he had started. Section 6. A Complicated Legacy. But those roots he talked about, they were indeed deep. The revolution drastically escalated under his successor, Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Now, Louverture favored diplomacy. He retained nominal ties to France and actively protected white colonists to try and rebuild the local economy. Dessalines, however, took a vastly more radical path. He defeated the French, declared complete independence for the newly named nation of Haiti in 1804, and ordered the mass slaughter of up to 7,000 white French colonists. It was a brutal, genocidal escalation that historians widely agree Louverture, with his much more pragmatic and diplomatic approach, probably never would have permitted. Yet even with all of his contradictions, the undeniable historical impact of Toussaint Louverture is just monumental. His leadership birthed the Haitian Revolution. To this day, it remains the only fully successful slave revolution in human history. And it resulted in the America's first post-colonial, Black-dominated nation. Haiti's independence and the massive blow it struck against the global institution of slavery simply would have been impossible without his initial genius, his structuring, and his unyielding drive. His story is the ultimate testament to both the heights of human liberation and the immense, sometimes heavily compromising complexities of holding absolute power.
So what we're left with is really a question. Was Toussaint Louverture a visionary hero who embodied the ultimate cause of universal freedom, or was he an unprincipled politician who craved absolute power and betrayed the very people who fought his revolution? I'll leave it up to you to weigh his miraculous, unparalleled victories against those deeply authoritarian flaws. Thank you for joining us on this explainer. Until next time, keep questioning the history you think you know.